So then you were diagnosed a second time.
But everything about the second diagnosis was different. I remember putting on Facebook, it was like this thing about this little boy and a giant, and I remember putting on there that chemo was my giant, because
I remember that actually.
I did not expect it, and it was just not something I wanted to do. Hey, one thing I would like to say is that if anybody has to go through this journey, which there's not really like a lot of good you can say about it, but one of the things I would
That's mine, Anna, if you're watching on YouTube, to like and subscribe. If you are listening on the podcast, please like and follow. We would love for you to do that now to help our channel grow and become a blessing to others.
So then you were diagnosed a second time.
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that.
So my second diagnosis was just before Christmas. And let me just start out by saying that every time I go to have a mammogram, I joke around with them, and I'm like, hey, is this half price or whatever, stuff like that. And, I try to, but I that's somewhat to calm my own anxiety. I know God's in control.
Right.
But every time I go to have a mammogram, it's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm just waiting, because, my doctor did tell me that my cancer has a high reoccurrence rate, and I'm just like, okay, is this the time?
Is this it?
And, I'm glad to say it hasn't been.
Yes, praise the Lord.
Yeah, but, and even though I know it could be down the road, I don't think I would be any less shocked.
Absolutely.
You can't prepare yourself for that.
No, you can't.
But everything about the second diagnosis was different, because unfortunately by then I had learned to read my chart, and I had learned to read every, what this means and what this means. And in my I went to have a mammogram. They did the ultrasound, and there was this young radiologist in there, and then it was the same nurse that was there the first time.
Oh, wow.
And she was doing the ultrasound, and then this young radiologist came in, and he said, well, I said, what's wrong? Something's wrong? And he said, and he just was trying to avoid eye contact or anything. And you could say, am I like your first patient? But it's like, I could tell there was bad news. And he didn't want to be the one to tell me. It's much easier for the breast specialist to tell you after they do the biopsy. And he definitely wasn't bold like the other guy, just came right out. But he was older and had years of experience.
Okay.
So I said, look, last time when they did the ultrasound, I've been down this road before, they were able to tell me. Now are you telling me that my cancer is back? And he said, there's an 80% chance, but I cannot be certain. Okay. And so he would not say with certainty.
Okay.
But I'm thinking 80% is a pretty high chance.
It is.
And that's what I said. I said 80% is pretty high, and he said, but you could be in the 20.
Oh, wow.
And he was trying to be so positive. And in my mind, I'm thinking, just tell me the truth. Just give it to me straight here. But not that I wanted to hear it.
Right.
But I said, look, last time they took me down the hall with a little pink bag, and when she came back in there, she said, and nothing's changed. I'm going to give you a little pink bag, and we're going to walk down the hall to the very same office that I went to before. And the doctor that I had left.
Oh, okay.
And I was so upset because I was like, what in the world are you, how can you do this? And I started crying when he told me he was leaving. And I said, what are you doing? I mean, he was relatively young, he wasn't retirement age.
Right.
And he said, I'm so shocked to have gotten the reactions that I've gotten.
Okay.
And I said, why? And he said, well, why is that so important? And I said, you are with people during
Right.
their darkest time.
Right.
And you can't understand that they don't want you to leave. And this is my second time around, and now I got to do this again, and you're not going to be with me.
Because it's comforting to have those people.
Familiar faces. And and I was upset. And he said, I'm going to give you to this person. And I said, well, can I at least have a hug before you leave? I mean, my goodness. And he was like, yeah. And he said, it's patients like you that make this job worthwhile. And I was like, yeah, I guess some patients are maybe bitter. But, I mean, it's not like he did it to me. Or,
right.
You
Exactly.
just have to suck it up. I mean, it's not his fault.
Right, exactly.
But I get it. I mean, when you don't feel good and you lash out, or when you don't understand why something's happening, I get it.
Right.
But I'm sorry. I got
you're
off on
fine.
a rabbit trail.
No. I want to hear all of that.
That happened, my mammogram was like on the 8th of December. They did a biopsy like on the 15th.
Okay.
And I was on my chart, and I found out that it came back and that it was, positive. That I had cancer.
Before you ever even talked to anybody.
Yes, and I called the doctor's office, and I talked to the nurse, and I said, I need to set up an appointment with the doctor. I saw online that my test, I was diagnosed with cancer. It's positive.
Wow.
And she said, we don't put that stuff online. And I said, I was on my chart. And she said, okay, I'll call you right back.
Ooh.
And then that is one of the things that the doctor complained about, that a lot that this is put online before they even sometimes have a chance to see it. But they brought me in on the 22nd.
Okay.
So Merry Christmas.
Yes, right at Christmas.
But they set up my surgery, and it was January the 7th.
Okay.
So we didn't really tell the kids until if I recall correctly, we did not tell the kids until like between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
Because it was just like,
such a cloud hanging
who
over.
wants to hear that?
That's hard.
But we had to tell them because the surgery was the first week of January.
Right.
So,
forgive me if you've already stated this. Was this the same exact kind of cancer?
no.
And in the same area?
The second prognosis was totally different. Even though it was in the same breast,
Okay.
it was totally different. The other one was induct. This one was a tumor. No, it was not induct. It was, and everything about it was different.
Okay.
So when I saw the diagnosis and everything, then after they said, okay, yes, it's true, you have cancer, they told me it was stage 2.
Okay.
And they said, we're going to remove your breast, and we are going to take 3 lymph nodes and test them. And so I was just like, I didn't ask any questions because this was totally different. And so I was in a different kind of shock, like, oh, this is totally different than what, it wasn't like, I will say that this doctor, she was great, but it was more like, this is what we need to do, and we're going to do this this time. And so that's what we did. We went, when they did the surgery, again, I was really worried about my lymph nodes because I was under the false assumption that if it was not in my lymph nodes, I would not have to have chemo.
Okay.
It was not in my lymph nodes, and I saw that on my chart over the weekend.
Oh.
So I was like, I remember waking Keith up and saying, it's not in my lymph nodes. And we were so happy because we thought, okay, so this is it. You just have it removed, and this is it. And then she said, I need you to see the oncologist. And then he presented everything that had to be done. And I was totally floored because he said, yes, you need to have chemotherapy.
Okay.
And that was not what I wanted to hear. And I remember putting on Facebook, it was like this thing about this little boy and a giant. And I remember putting on there that chemo was my giant because
I remember that actually.
I did not expect it. And it was just not something I wanted to do. But again, I can say my doctor was fabulous. Different doctor from the first time, but same doctor's office.
Okay.
And he was this is all happening during COVID.
Wow. Oh, so that was different.
It was, lots of things were different because where other people could go to the doctor's appointments with me and stuff.
No.
And you had to have a mask on and you had to do, and you know, if your fever was up a little any little thing, they would test you for COVID. They did blood work on me every time I went in for a treatment. And if my numbers were not where they should be, they'd say, you know, we can't do it today.
I remember getting
I would
messenger.
message you.
You would message me and pray, this is what's happening, this
pray.
is what needs, yes.
I mean, it can't even go down 1 point or I'm not having this treatment today. And I was like, and I remember it went down like say it was 1.3 and it couldn't go down and then it was 0.09 or something. And I remember crying and he came out and he goes, what's wrong? And I said, it's 0.09. And he looked at me and he looked at the nurse. And he looked back at me and he said, do you want to have it today?
Oh, wow.
And I said, yes, I do. And he said, okay. But there were a couple times I could not.
Okay.
But that was just so close. And
yes.
It was, but
and I'm sure your determination factored into that.
Well, are you trying to say I'm bossy?
No, I'm not. And you know, but you hear people talk about, and you hear doctors say, nurses, you know, your attitude when you have something like this is important, and it's an important part to you fighting and healing. So I think that's part of it. I think that's if you're that determined, then he's probably thinking, okay, she can handle it.
Yeah, he was real good. He asked me. He said, what is it that you feel? I mean, I was devastated about having to have chemo. I really was. I was just not what I was expecting after being so elated about it not being in my lymph nodes. And he said, what is the worst part for you? And I said, I hate throwing up. It's like the end of the world. It's like my insides are coming out. And he said, I can take care of that.
Okay.
And he said, and I said, and I don't want to lose my hair. And he said,
can't take care of that.
I can't take care of that. He said, but there's this new thing out called a cooling cap.
Okay.
And you can, you wear this on your head while you're having the treatment. And what it does is it kind of like, I don't know, freezes your hair follicles or whatever.
Okay.
But it didn't work.
You still lost your hair?
Yeah, it took longer to lose it, but I did lose it. And I remember, you know.
What was that like? Just you got handfuls out, or how? Or do you want to talk about that?
During Easter is when it was really starting to come out. Okay. So I would see it in the bathtub, like the shower, and then I would try to stand back away from the shower because I thought, the water pounding down is making it happen. Oh. Or then if you wrap your towel around your head and you take your towel off, you have hair in your. It was devastating. I remember we had company for Easter cookout, and during this time, Krista and the girls were living with us, and she came in the bathroom, and I was upset, and she said, "Nobody cares. It's okay. Nobody cares." And I was like, "But I care.
Yeah, it's important to you."
Yeah, so I was like, I didn't want to put on a hat or a bandana because I thought what hair I had left would come out. But I'm telling you, I cried and cried about my hair. I know it sounds vain.
No, I think that the Bible even says it's a glory to a woman, the covering of her hair. And so there's something about it that is just, You know, it's not the
I mean,
same.
I was more upset about losing my hair than my breast because I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, you see my hair.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's what you see. And
No, I can,
and it's kind of like a, you know, it's devastating being bald. It was it's like you're just out there in the open for everybody to see.
vulnerable.
And yes. And I got two marvelous wigs that, I mean, people would say they did not even know.
And I have a question about that. Did you get a wig that looked like the hair you already had? Because I had a friend who...
Two.
Oh, okay. Because there was a friend of mine who, if I remember right, she got wigs in all different colors, and wore, like, one day I might be a redhead, one day I might be silver, just to see.
Well, I thought about that.
Yeah.
I thought, that's funny, but I wasn't in a funny mood.
Right, exactly.
And I was working in a school with kids, and I didn't, one of the things that we talked about with the principal and the assistant principal was, I didn't want to scare the kids because, you know, okay, honestly, I was the age of some of their grandparents and stuff.
Sure.
And, you know, who hasn't lost somebody to cancer?
Right.
And you think cancer, dying.
Right.
And I didn't want to scare the kids. So,
that wouldn't have even crossed my mind. That's so important. You're right. For you not to change in their view, like what's happening.
So I wore a wig, but I will say that that lasted through the end of that school year. And over this summer, not even my granddaughters lived with me. Okay. So they saw me without my wig. Okay. But my 3 other grandchildren who did not live, they lived in Orange, not far away, but whenever I knew they were coming or whatever, the wigs came on because
I think I would do that.
I didn't want to scare them, but yet my granddaughters that live with me, they were in the know. Right. You know, they're there. They, you know, unfortunately, they were going through it with me, you know.
And did your hair come back different? And I'm asking because several people I know that have gone through chemo, it's come back a different color, different texture, or...
Well, unfortunately, my hair was gray before, but when it came back, it was like more of a curly texture at first. So at first I thought, oh, this is cool. At first, you know, I would put gel in my hair, and it took me like 5 minutes to get ready for work, and that was great. But then, you know, it was a little more white in the front, and I was okay with that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Your hair is absolutely beautiful now.
Well, thank you.
It was before, but it's still gorgeous.
But that went away. The longer my hair got, the loose the curl got. Okay. And so, you know, the weight of the hair, I guess, kind of pulled that curl out. But when it was first coming out, it was like, well, this is new.
I've never had curly hair.
But I don't care because I want hair.
Right, exactly.
But one of the things I wanted to say was I was tested for the BRCA gene. All right. And I did not have it, which surprised me because that was my second time having cancer.
Right. Which good for the sake of your family, but still, I do think we're hearing, I don't know, maybe they're just learning more about it, but I think we're hearing more and more about cancer that doesn't quite fit into the mold of what.
Because we have 3 daughters, and because my mother-in-law had also been diagnosed with breast cancer years before, it was important for me to know, for the girls to find out, because, I mean, Kelly has it on her maternal grandmother. Okay. Krista has it on her mother. Sarah has it on both sides. Okay. And so really it was very important for me to find out, you know, what I can do to help them. Okay. But they said I did not have the gene. Okay. So I didn't understand it because I had had the cancer twice. Mm-hmm. But it was negative. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a good.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But you know, I do think it warrants finding out, but it's also unusual. I think I hear more and more of people just saying it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Well,
like you when it happened, you know, and yes, and the type and all of that combined. You're right, it doesn't make sense because obviously we live in a broken world and things don't go like we plan, expect, or want. Exactly.
Well, when I was telling you about my chart, it's like a blessing and a curse.
Right.
So, but I did find out something good. Well, the good thing was I didn't have it in my lymph nodes, and that is good because the chemo would have been different and would have been longer.
Oh, okay.
But also that they originally thought it was stage 2, but it was stage 1.
And you found that out
good.
in there.
That was good too. So I did have my treatments, and the chemo was every week.
Okay.
On Wednesdays.
Okay.
And the weird thing about that is like I said, we were going through COVID at this time, and the school, our school, was opened Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it was closed on Wednesdays for deep cleaning, And they said your treatments are going to be on Wednesdays.
Wow.
And I had no input on that. I was just like, whatever you're telling me is fine. I don't care. But when they said that, I was like,
so did you
God's
work
timing
did you
again.
work while you had chemo? Even?
Yes.
Wow, that's
up
amazing.
Until school let out in the school that I worked at let out the Friday before Memorial Day.
Okay.
And I believe that I missed that the last few days of school.
That's
because
amazing.
What happens is it builds up in your system.
Okay.
And so after I went from my weekly chemo treatments, I went into, then I started on June the 9th, I believe it was, because my last treatment was May the 19th.
Okay.
And then after that, it was like...
So still in your system, still having some side effects and all of that.
That's the last treatment. I thought, I'm so glad I'm having my last treatment, but I didn't think of how it was going to make me feel, and that one took me down.
Okay.
So that last week of school, I wasn't really there that much, and I didn't get to say goodbye to the kids. What killed me, because I was like, wanted to... It was just a different year, and you just try to keep it as sane as possible for them. But I was trying to keep it as sane as possible for me too.
Sure.
So it was crazy. But then after that, every 3 weeks, I had to have another treatment.
Oh, okay.
Hey, one thing I would like to say is that if anybody has to go through this journey, which there's not really like a lot of good you can say about it, but one of the things I would recommend is the port.
Okay.
I was asked if I wanted to have the port.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I had a couple of friends that were going through cancer at the time, and both of them said, get the port.
Okay.
And I did. And it was a lifesaver.
And that way they can just hook in when you go. And
yeah, you feel pressure. And they gave me this like lidocaine cream, and you put it on your port. You put it on the port area, and then what happens is it numbs it, because they still have to stick that catheter thing in there. They still gotta, but mostly what you're feeling is pressure.
Okay.
And there would be times I'd forget, like, to put the lidocaine on, because you get caught up doing other stuff, and then you're like, yeah, I'm not going to forget that again. But it's better than, because I have such thin rolling veins, than for them to have to stop it and start the treatment again and do that again.
Instead of IV every time.
It was, so the port was
okay.
a plus.
Good advice.
It was good to do that. I was glad I did that.
Okay.
So then I went to my every 3 week treatments, and my hair started to come back. And when I went back to school, I decided it was the beginning of the school year. And see, the previous year, all those kids had seen me with hair, and it was in the second half of the school year.
Sure.
So I wasn't going to like, there you go.
Yeah.
But but this, from the beginning of school, I started off and my hair was like
short, cute hair. I remember, it still looked cute, but
it wasn't that cute then. And you could still see a lot of scalp, and they were like, Miss Matee, what did you do to oh my gosh, they were like, and some of them would be whispering, and our kids are brutal.
Yeah.
And not that they were purposely trying to be mean.
Sure.
And sometimes it did sting a little, but then I thought, hey, my hair's growing back, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it bothered my granddaughters because they'd be like, do you know what my grandmother's been through? My Nana's done a lot of stuff, and her hair's growing back, and, they were like,
standing up for you.
Yeah, they were.
I love it.
They were. It was...
So how about... So you finished? Did you finish up that summer? Did you finish chemo, or did you have to do it? How long was the whole treatment?
My treatments didn't end until 2022.
Okay.
And January 31st, 2022.
Okay.
It had been postponed twice because one time I got COVID.
Okay.
And one time my numbers weren't up, and so they didn't make me wait it was every 3 weeks, and they didn't make me wait 3 more weeks. They made me come back the following week.
Oh, okay.
So it would push it, it would push it forward because I really wanted it to be over and done with. And when you sit down and you look at the calendar and you think, I was diagnosed in 20.
Yeah.
And then I didn't finish my treatments till 2022. That's a big chunk.
It is.
And, you just had, I remember... There were times that I would, get in a funk and stuff.
Absolutely.
And I would be tired. And I just wanted it to be over. I just wanted it to be over. And I think my kids did too.
Yes.
And I just think everybody wanted life to go back to what we considered normal.
Right.